in '66 and '67, when I was a senior at Boston College, we had organized a chapter of the Catholic Peace Fellowship, and with weekly vigils, usually Friday at noontime in the quadrangle and so forth. When that ended, in June of '67, the call came out from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and others to form sort of like the Mississippi Freedom Summer, Vietnam Summer, in the summer of '67, to organize discussions around the impact of perpetual war and the protracted war on Vietnam in the community. I was also chair of the housing committee at our local, in our local community in Dorchester at the Dennison House, as it was called. So it became very clear to me that the Great Society ran aground at Cam Bay. The guns and butter, or guns or butter thing became very clear. I was involved in trying to get a citywide tenants union going in Boston, entertaining various projects to get decent affordable housing into the community. My section of Dorchester up into Roxbury was sort of looked more like Berlin or other European cities after the war. Whole areas of vacant lots, trash strewn, and there were various suggestions on how to turn that around. At the same time, we realized going out that just talking in the abstract in this community wasn't enough, and that's why we had initially organized the Dorchester Union on Vietnam, DUV, D-U-V. But that was inadequate, so we also organized the Dorchester Community Union and opened a storefront on Dudley Street across from where we lived. We started having weekly potluck suppers and trying to discuss how to deal with those kinds of issues. So for us to talk about Vietnam without talking about the lack of community services, or the lack of affordable, decent housing, or the lack of transportation, or whatever the other particular reasons, it all blended together, and that was what we projected. So in April of '68, when Dr. King was assassinated, a group of us were invited actually to a Methodist church down in Lower Mills. In our minds, certainly in my mind, it all blended together. The fight for social progress, the fight against racism, and the fight to bring peace to Vietnam certainly weren't divided in any way. In August of '68, I joined the Communist Party, which in my mind was the logical successor of the need for a broad vision, a whole social vision to transform all of society, not just piecemeal. Thanksgiving weekend in November of '68, three of us from Dorchester hitched a ride with others up to Montreal for the Hemispheric Conference on the War in Vietnam, for an intense discussion of how we could move the whole world to end this attack on Southeast Asia. It's sort of the highlight of the year in many ways.